Tucked within the training programs of many an athletic discipline is a particularly challenging type of workout called the AMRAP workout. Standing for as many reps as possible, these types of workouts challenge athletes to do a specific move as many times as they possibly can within a set amount of time. These types of workouts are intense, and they can be a great way to track the progress of your fitness over time. In fact, the climbing gym that I go to actually uses the AMRAP format to test our fitness in their general exercise classes. But aside from its benefits in the gym, the idea behind the AMRAP workout can also help you become more productive as well. This is an idea that I learned about from Jason Khalipa, an athlete and successful entrepreneur who competed in the CrossFit Games 8 times and actually won it in 2008. Among other feats, Jason has back squatted 450 pounds, deadlifted 550 pounds, and done a single set of 64 pull-ups, which makes the 13 that I did for this video's opening shot look pretty pathetic by comparison. In addition to being an elite athlete though, Jason is also the owner of a successful gym business with 6 different locations, and his ability to manage that business, along with his athletics and his family, stems from a concept that he calls the AMRAP Mentality. I first learned about this concept when I listened to Jason's interview on the Tim Ferriss Show, which is one of my favorite podcasts, and ever since it has been a very helpful mental tool for me, which is why I want to share it with you today. To start, I want to pose to you a question that Jason brought up in that interview. Are we more productive today than we were 20 years ago? It's tempting to jump to an immediate yes, since we now have access to vastly better technology, information, and automation than we had back when A Bug's Life came out. But is that actually a good thing? Sure, I can now tell a robot to put things on my calendar, which is admittedly pretty cool. But all this technology also makes it so much easier for us to constantly pull our attention away from the present. And this becomes habitual. How many times have you been out to dinner with friends and had the urge to check your phone for text messages, even though you're literally sitting across the table from people you could talk to in person? And how often do you feel your attention being pulled away from your work because you just have to know what the best-selling Godzilla movie is? It's become easier than ever for us to spend almost all of our time in a distracted, unfocused state. However, in these modern times, there is still one situation where you almost never find your mind wandering from the present. As Jason points out in that interview, when you're in the middle of an AMRAP workout, when you're trying as hard as you can to raise your chin to that bar just one more time, that's when your mind is completely focused on the task at hand. The level of sheer intensity involved in an AMRAP round makes it impossible to focus on your weekend plans or that video game you played last night. And this leads to the core idea behind Jason's AMRAP mentality, channeling that intense focus, that present-mindedness that you experience during an intense workout and applying it to the rest of your life, whether it be your homework or the time you spend with friends and family. Jason breaks the process of using this mentality into 4 steps. First, you need to work to identify your areas of focus. Ideally, you should only have a few of these, and each of them should have what's called a strong internal why, a compelling reason for why you're focusing on them instead of something else. And this part of the process might also involve abandoning certain areas of focus, or at least putting them on the back burner if you have too many. Remember, you can only spin so many plates at once. Actually, I can't spin any plates. Anyway, the areas of focus that I've chosen for myself include 1, creating videos with a specific focus on the writing process and filming process now that I have an editor. Number 2, my athletics, specifically training in rock climbing and figure skating. 3, spending time with my girlfriend Anna. And 4, working on a talk for a conference that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Now, before we move on to the second step in the process, I want to mention that you should be doing this on a more micro level as well. These are all macro goals that I just outlined, but every day I also try to write down a list of the things that I want to accomplish by the end of the day. And for each item on the list, I ask myself, does that item have a strong internal why? All right, so after you've chosen all those areas of focus, the next step is simple. Choose one area, focus on it with all of your attention, and work hard at it. Or in other words, AMRAP it. In one of his talks about the AMRAP mentality, Jason gave this concept weight by using the image of a bicycle. When you're riding a bike, your only focus is on where you're going. If it's not, you're probably going to crash. And if you want to get where you're going with any amount of speed, you're going to have to crank those pedals hard. And this metaphor was especially fitting for me just a couple of days ago, because over the weekend, I decided that I was going to ride my bike from my place in Denver over to a friend's place in Boulder, and then back. The total distance of that ride is 70 miles, which is actually the longest that I've ever ridden a bicycle. Now, I made pretty good time, and I ended up arriving in Boulder around 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon. But since I stayed and hung out at my friend's place for a while, I didn't start heading back until around 6 p.m. And before I even hit the halfway mark on that ride back, it started getting dark, which meant that I had to spend about 20 miles riding with my bike's headlamp. It was a perfect example of the AMRAP mentality in action. The dark forced me to concentrate intensely on where I was going and my surroundings, and the fact that it was getting darker and darker motivated me to pedal quickly, even though the previous 50 miles had already worn me out. I was, in a word, AMRAPing the entire way home, putting in focused, intense effort until the job was done and I was ready to switch to something else, which, as it happens, is the third step in the AMRAP mentality. Switch gears and do it deliberately. And of course, when this happens, you then go right back to step 2, right back to focusing intensely and working hard at that next thing. The idea here is that mentally, switching from your math homework to, say, hanging out with a friend should be exactly like going from an AMRAP set of pull-ups to another AMRAP set of push-ups. Your focus calmly switches to the new thing, and then all of your attention becomes fixated upon it. Lastly, the AMRAP mentality requires frequent periods of reevaluation. You need to sit down quite often and ask yourself, do my areas of focus still make sense? Ask yourself if there's still a strong internal why for each one, and whether or not there's still room in your life for all of them. And Jason gives a great example of this in his interview on the Tim Ferriss Show. After competing in the CrossFit Games for 8 years, Jason sat down and realized that his business was growing, his family was growing, and the competition in the games was getting tougher and tougher each year. So after reevaluating his priorities, he decided to stop competing so he could be a better father and husband and business owner. He realized that if he wanted to excel at these things, there wasn't enough room in his life to also be a serious competitor. And this act of reevaluating is something that you need to do as well, especially during periods of change in your life. Even though the AMRAP mentality will enable you to be more productive, you always need to keep in mind that your time, attention, and energy are all limited resources. So to recap, the AMRAP mentality involves 1, identifying your areas of focus and defining a strong internal why for each one. 2, choosing a single area of focus, working to remain mentally present the entire time you're doing it, and going at it hard. 3, switch gears deliberately and have a good reason for doing so. Don't just jump back and forth between focuses. And 4, take time to reevaluate your areas of focus often, especially when you go through a life change or you decide you want to start spinning another plate. Now, the steps outlined in this process might seem similar to other concepts that I've shared in the past, but there's a reason that I wanted to share it with you now, namely that it's been a very useful visual metaphor for me. As an athlete, I often do AMRAP workouts, as well as other high-intensity forms of training. I'm well acquainted with the all-encompassing focus that comes with trying to do as many pull-ups as I can, or trying to do a difficult bouldering problem, or trying to climb a big hill on my bike. And when I remind myself of what it's like to be in those situations, I find it easier to slip into the flow state with my work as well. In fact, I've actually started writing AMRAP at the top of my daily to-do lists. I am a huge believer in the idea that visual metaphors can be strong motivators. When I'm out on a long bike ride, I often picture the pistons in a car engine moving, which helps me regard my own legs as similar machines that won't be influenced by whatever complaints my brain wants to throw up about them. This type of visualization is powerful, and many elite athletes actually use it before competing. So even if you already know that you should be focusing intensely or switching gears deliberately, ask yourself, are you? If you're not currently doing as well as you'd like, well, maybe give the AMRAP mentality a try, because you might find it just as helpful as I did. Now, there is one last thing we need to talk about here. A lot of you have readily admitted to the fact that you watch my videos as a way to procrastinate on your work. And while I'm flattered, and while it's definitely a better way to procrastinate than watching baby otter videos, which I did yesterday, you need to get back to work. Now, I know what some of you are going to say here, but Tom, I'm completely stuck on my homework. I've got a bunch of problems, I've worked as hard as I can, but I can't solve them, and my professor doesn't have office hours until next April. Well, if that is you, then one app that you might want to consider adding to your phone's home screen is the Chang Study App. This app, along with their website for you desktop users, gives you access to step-by-step solutions to the problems that you're gonna find in your textbooks. And their library is massive, spanning over 22,000 different textbooks, including, because I wanted to test the service out for myself, the Java programming textbook that gave me so much trouble back in college. Additionally, if you get stuck on a problem that's not in one of your textbooks, you can also use the app to send a picture to Cheg's team of Q&A experts, who can then send you an answer in as little as 2 hours. And this is a great tool to have at your disposal when you're in a pinch. Cheg's Study's subscription is super affordable and can be canceled at any time if you find yourself not using it. And what's better, you can also get $5 off your first month subscription by going over to chegg.com/ThomasFrank. When I was in college, I used to use Cheg's marketplace of used and rental textbooks to save myself a ton of money, so I've been a fan of the company for quite some time, and it's cool to see them adding these new features to help students even more. With that being said, I want to give a big thanks to Chegg for sponsoring this video and being a supporter of this channel, and as always guys, thank you so much for watching. If you found the ideas in this video helpful, maybe give it a like to support this channel, and you can also subscribe right there to get new videos on this channel every single week. You can also click right over there to get a free copy of my book on how to earn better grades. Click right over here for one more video on this channel, or follow me on Instagram over at TomFrankly. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.